Welcome to Morning Message for December the 1st. There's going to be three stories related to Christmas. I'm going to tell one today and the others on Thursday and Saturday, so you'll have to wait till Thursday and Saturday for the other ones. The first one has to do with a very odd, well, what I consider to be a very odd conversation I had with a couple several years ago. They've both since died, but they were around for the Second World War. In fact, they were stationed overseas. That's how they would have said it. They were stationed in St. John's, Newfoundland. And she did some work for the Canadian forces there. And he actually did serve in Europe and was in Dover on the day just before the invasion of Normandy. So, but he did spend some time in Newfoundland. And Newfoundland was actually part of the war zone. There were U-boats in the waters there, and people have to black out their houses. They weren't allowed to have lights on at night and that sort of thing. You know, and that kind of makes me think, you know, how did they do that? You know, here, people didn't have the choice. It wasn't a matter of freedom to turn off your lights at night, because that was one of the ways the U-boats knew where people were living, was they could see the lights on the shore. So contrast that with today, and people who are sort of foolish enough to not want to wear a mask. I mean, come on, let's get real about these things. You're saving other people's lives by wearing a mask. Anyway, that was an aside. In my conversation with this couple, because they'd spent some time together in Newfoundland, and of course he did some time overseas as well, they talked about the friendships that they made, and particularly on special occasions like Christmas. They talked about how wonderful the Christmases were, even though they might have been in the dark, or at least had very heavy coverings on their windows and those sorts of things. They still managed to have fun times, and some deep, deep friendships were developed during those war years. And in their conversations, they were about that. They said something that seemed really odd to me, and that was, you know, what the world needs now is a war. And that shocked me when I heard them say that. But of course, they didn't really mean that. What they meant was the world needs something to bring us together. The world needs something that helps develop those kinds of deep friendships, those deep relationships. And I don't think COVID-19 is one of those, you know, it's not the same as World War II, but it certainly is something that can bring us together. Even though we can't gather in the same way that they might have been able to during the war, we still need to find ways to communicate. We still need to find ways to make this a special Christmas, and one that we can talk about for years to come, and the friendships, the unique relationships that were developed in the midst of COVID-19. And we have to utilize the things that are available to us. That couple would have put heavy blankets on their windows and shared some gin or whatever it was they might have shared with some other close friends, people that were nearby. So we use Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, any technology that might be available to us to help create those deep relationships. And that will allow us to focus on what's really significant about Christmas, and that is Christmas is really at its core one big celebration of the fact that God is always present with us. Even in the midst of a pandemic, God's presence is here. I hope and pray that as we approach Christmas and as we celebrate Christmas this year, that knowledge, that awareness will be even closer to the surface for us, that we will truly be aware of God's presence, God's love, God's mercy in our lives. God bless. Amen.